Hello, 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 good people, and welcome back to Happy, Healthy, Whole with Sharea. I am Sharea, and I am honored again to be here to talk emotional health and collective care in today's America. So far, we've discussed in week 1 and 2 emotional grounding and collective care as resistance. This week, we're going to focus on emotional boundaries and sustaining care. While care, while caring for ourselves and others is essential, we must also recognize our limits as humans. Setting boundaries is an act of self-preservation and community support. Let's dive into the ways that we have to look at this and also put it into practice. All right. So, the importance of emotional boundaries. Many of us many of us have been conditioned to overextend ourselves, especially Black women who have often been expected to be the backbone of families and communities. But emotional boundaries is a necessary part of us sustaining ourselves as we resist to the many oppressions that we're dealing with. Without without this level of emotional boundaries, we risk burnout, resentment, and emotional exhaustion, which means that we can't do anything. Boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges to a healthier relationship with yourself as well as your community. So, recognizing that we need boundaries is our first thing to think about. How do we know when when we need to strengthen or make our boundaries stronger is going to be the first thing. Are you feeling drained after every interaction? If certain people or spaces leave you emotionally exhausted, it may be time to reevaluate your boundaries. So, for those who don't know, I have been on a social media fast for over a month, and even just getting back on it for one day, I felt exhausted. And so I'm thinking on how do I balance and create boundaries so that I'm not drained in that way. And so for me, that means less days on social media even after the fast. And so before I was only doing 3 days, or I was doing, yeah, about 3 days a week. Now I may go to 2 days a week because for my business, there's some level of participation that I want to do so that they are getting my authentic voice. And part of that also means I want to engage directly with my audience. However, it's exhausting. And so reevaluating my boundaries in that area are going to be important. Will I do 3 days or will I go down to two? I haven't made the decision yet, so I don't want to land on anything. But I do know that even just being back on it, literally today was my first day and I was exhausted. Saying yes, the next thing is saying yes when you should say no. This is often how we lead ourselves to resentment and additional stress, but also emotional exhaustion. We have to learn that the power is not always in the yes, it's sometimes in the no, and understanding what I can do to make sure that I'm balancing my collective and self care with the active word of no. I believe that we all have areas and strengths. And so therefore, we may need to find the area that we are going to resist in, that we are going to put our actual collective work together in and know. So for some, it'll be on the front line. For others, it will be the financial. For others, it will be the support and the community that they'll build around those who are physically resistant. Find your area and be able to make sure that your no is clear to those other areas because it doesn't pay to exhaust yourself by trying to do it all, but doing something that may be able to support our community in your area. And so the next thing is feeling responsible for others' emotions. Many times we are not able to navigate or understand how to navigate other people's emotions, or we sometimes will take them on as our own burdens. And that example I used about knowing your strength, knowing your area of resistance is really going to be not just saying no, but also knowing how to be responsible for your emotions within the areas of emotions that people, or within the range of emotions that people around you may be feeling, right? When someone's outraged and anger, doesn't mean that you have to be outraged and angered the same way. You might be outraged and be able to maintain your emotions so that you can clearly hear what's the active strategy that's being put in place. So that way I can learn what I need to do resist to resist. I don't need to take on maybe the anger and the resentment, I may just need to be angry enough to hear. Another person's emotions in that moment might be too angry, might be too rageful, and that doesn't allow them to get to that point. However, it allows them to then be on the front line to be able to fight it in a way that's about resistance with anger and frustration. There is nothing wrong with these emotions that I'm saying. It's how do we know when we are putting someone else's response as the response that we are supposed to have? And so for those who are maybe feeling numb and maybe feeling like they don't know what to do, your moment right now may be to rest, maybe to be quiet with your emotions so that you can regain the emotional strength and resilience to deal with one angle of where you can resist. But don't feel like it is only one way to feel in these ever changing, sad world that we're living in this moment. Find what you're feeling, identify, acknowledge was what we talked about the first week. Acknowledge what you're feeling as real. And then based off of those feelings, figure out how we said earlier, what are the areas that I can help collectively to resist all of the oppression that might be going in the world around me. So find your niche or your area that you can really, really help in and help to make sure that you're not burden yourself with so many other emotions that may not belong to you, but are real to someone else for them to be able to do the work that they have to do. All right, so practical ways to set boundaries, since I've talked about how you can just recognize when you need to have some boundaries, right? But practical ways is use clear and kind communication. For example, I appreciate you reaching out, but I need some time for myself today. I appreciate you telling me how you feel, but I need some time to process all the things that the world is having me experience, right? Limit access when needed. Everybody doesn't have to have full access to your time and your energy. Prioritize your well-being by also prioritizing your relationships and what you can have or can handle. And then honor your own needs without guilt. It is okay to step back, rest, and replenish. You cannot pour into an empty cup, has been said 1,000,001 times, but the reality of it is that's true. And so in order for us to regain and to refocus and even to create resilience, we have to rest and replenish, whatever that looks like for each of us. We talked about some quick grounding strategies that can help in the moment. But when we think about this rest and replenishing, this is where we have to think about our ongoing routine around eating well, sleeping, having support and emotional freedom, and also bringing joy into our lives as much as possible. All right. So this week, I encourage us to reflect on where you need to strengthen your emotional boundaries and take one step towards setting them. Before we close, I want to also honor a Black history fact. Audre Lorde, which is one of those people who I love, and if you ever got an email from me, she's my signature. She's in my signature, which is the legacy of self-care. Lorde, a Black feminist writer and activist, famously said, caring for myself is not self-indulgent. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. Her work reminds us that setting emotional boundaries is not just personal, but it's revolutionary. Don't forget that even rest can be a form of resistance. Again, take good care of yourselves. Next week, we were going to close out this 4-week series on collective healing and moving forward. And I hope to incorporate some joy and hope. Now, I will incorporate some joy and hope. Y'all be well.